Frothies, we're back again to get stuck into all the events of State of Origin 1 and get stuck, how do you get stuck forward? Look at round 14 of Rugby League coming up. Barnyard, what's happening, mate?
Not a great deal, mate. Got home from work not long ago, so get to go back there again tomorrow, which is always fun. You go on yourself?
No, the same. It's generally how society works, I found, is the repetition of work seems to be key to it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Despite my best efforts to do otherwise, at some points I get dragged in. But, yeah, anyway, we soldier on. How did you enjoy last night?
Yeah, it was decent atmosphere with a couple of the boys around there at the local. At the end of the day, it did get scrappy at times, but it was a pretty physical game of footy. It wasn't any massive high skill levels apart from a couple of moments in the game where it really did break open. But yeah, it was definitely a physical encounter. So
Ah, it was all right. Yeah, I enjoy it. I don't get as invested in State of Origin as some people do. I enjoy watching it for what it is, I guess. It's fine. It's all right. I thought Ashley Klein liked the sound
a
of
little
his whistle.
slippery, which I think sort of made things a little bit bit uglier to watch. But
Yeah.
all in all, decent game of footy.
Yeah, it was a high quality game, high enough quality game of footy, I guess. There's still a few errors, and like I was about to say, Ashley Klein liked the sound of his whistle more than a regular Origin game, I would say. I dare say we might see a bit of a more lax approach on the offside coming up in game 2, but we'll see. Have you done the stats? Why don't we start there like we normally do?
Got some stats in front of us. So ended up being 26 for Queensland, 18 for New South Wales, which came to 5 tries to 3. 3 out of 5 conversions played 3 out of 3 for New South Wales. 81% completion played 79%. New South Wales with 184 plus running metres and 99 plus post contact metres. 3 line breaks from both teams. 38 tackle busts played 39. 2 offloads 4. 2 forced dropouts for New South Wales. 140-20 for Queensland. 357 tackles played 324. 8 errors to 10. 8 penalties conceded to 6. 2 ruck infringements against Queensland and a sin bin against Queensland.
Yes, you'll start to obviously those that have watched Origin for a long time would have started getting nervous once Queensland were down to 14 players and a sin bin and everything else. You knew they were going to pull something out of a hat because they always do, quite simply. And I mean, where do you want to start with looking at this game? I guess we'll run through the ebbs and flows and then maybe touch on a couple of some of perhaps the criticism since and what we think went right or wrong. As you said, the game itself, decent enough game. Physical, what you'd expect from Origin, physical, probably not as high a skill level as you'd expect, but if you're blaming the surface, I think perhaps back to Suncorp, well, maybe not. Back to Suncorp should see that open up next time, but we're now in a position where no New South Wales team has ever won the series from behind heading away for game 2, so we'll see if they can defy history too. I don't know if this is necessarily the one to do it, but yeah, what did you make of the game?
They play like that, they'll get absolutely walloped up in Queensland.
Yes, they will.
It was a pretty stop-start for that first 10 or 15 minutes. Few penalties, as you mentioned, errors, guys slipping over, and I think there was a lot of nervousness from both teams, realistically, at the start of this game, which sort of stopped them from going out of their way to spread the ball, especially in that first 10 minutes. So it's a pretty similar state to most games, realistically. They play directly down the middle for a very long time, and then before they start to spread the ball. But I thought New South Wales were probably on top in the first 5 to 10 minutes, just through the physical engagement in the middle of the field. But as soon as Queensland started to spread the ball, there's a couple of nice little early spreads and early kicks to change the momentum of the game and get on the outside of a few pretty poor tackles there from New South Wales, and they ran in 2 real quick tries there back to back. It was really put New South Wales behind a long way, and you could see the body language completely change. Still think New South Wales probably were physically a touch better than Queensland for the majority of the game, except for when the ball did get out to those outside edges.
It felt, to be honest, a little bit like, given the physical dominance, let's be honest, what did the possession end up? But with 15 minutes to go, at least
57
it was
43 or something
closer
like that.
to 60. I think it was about 67 with 15 minutes to go. New
Yeah,
South Wales' favour, and a lot of that was in the Queensland attacking line. So, quite frankly, and admittedly, there were two fantastic try savers from Tuolangi. Uh,
there was.
Absolutely outstanding.
Absolutely, there was.
One of individual effort and one with but both great efforts on his part to hold them up. They, but realistically, a team like that
They were
that's
pretty special moments, really, to be
oh,
honest.
absolutely, and
Yeah.
game saving moments, but game changing moments you could argue, but it didn't really change New South Wales momentum at the time. But given the dominance they had, I thought their attack was well, you can't say any otherwise. New South Wales attack was poor. Uh, it was like watching. It was embellic of watching some of the spluttering Panthers games and some of the Roosters attack this year. Uh,
Yeah, absolutely it
and
was.
I guess the key personnel well have been involved with both across those two teams. Uh, but you got to say it's disappointing in terms of why don't we work? Why don't we work through Queensland? Because in general, look, their forwards were monstered. Collins took a while to warm into the game, but was quite good, I thought, by the end of the game. But
He was, yeah.
perhaps lacking a bit of size and losing Gilbert to injury
Tom
obviously
Gilbert.
didn't help. So meaning Cotter soldiered
Absolutely.
through and did a great effort out there. But by and large, they were just dominated, and Gilbert's work rate would have probably changed it a little bit. But I can see them looking, as we've said, someone like Mo, just a bit of more size in the front can help them next game. But
Mm.
I can't imagine them changing too much. They'll look for someone with Gilbert, but Nanai's fit now, so he might even come straight back in. But
For a forward pack that were on the back foot for a big part, they did a very, very good job at controlling the ruck in the
mm,
tackle. Uh, they New South Wales never really seemed to get back to back quick play the balls. They might get one here or there, but there was never that role where they'd sort of get through the line and then do it again, do it again. Um, well, that I guess came down to sort of the numbers that they put into the tackles. Once they knew they had the man secured, they'd throw an extra body or two in there just to really spend a bit of extra time in and around in the ruck and slow it down a fair bit. Um,
yeah, well, actually, just
that
looking at the
being
play the
said,
ball speeds, they're all closer to 4 seconds than uh, otherwise. Just looking through it now, and
that being
that's
said,
yeah,
New South Wales never really earned the right for quick play the balls
mm,
either. While they were getting a few extra, post contact meters, and they were constantly probably getting 8 to 10 meter hit ups. They no way did they really bend the line or even crack at it. I think there was one point Frizzell stuck his nose through off a
yeah.
really nice inside ball, but they played that absolute death by the end of the game. How many times they floated across the field and dropped forward back on the inside, and by the end of the game, Queensland were all set up and just waiting for it. Realistically, you saw a couple of times where the halves got absolutely belted by because they were wasting time looking for the inside man on the inside shoulder, or their support runner got absolutely belted as well. So
And again,
to me,
that's been the Panthers' trademark this year, hasn't it? That inside support runner.
um, big difference when the ball did shift out past past that A and B defender for mine was how direct Queensland were with their running of the ball and their support runners as well. There wasn't you didn't see them turning and coming back on different angles and constantly chopping and changing and sort of stopping and starting like New South Wales were, and they did it so many times in this game, especially the likes of Luai and Tedesco was the main one. Realistically, how many times he got himself caught in a corner and did that thing that we've spoken about for the last couple of years, where he gets completely lost and starts running around in circles, and then supports don't know where to go from there. So they all just sort of stop as well, and everything just breaks down. Queensland with the likes of Munster and Cherry Evans were running directly at their opposite player or on their outside shoulder to get into that extra space, and then the support runners were running at the holes and a lot of direct fast running, which made a massive difference when they did get that wide. You could see how much more it stretched the defence of New South Wales than what New South Wales could do to Queensland at any time, apart from really the short ball that Martin strolled through to score under the post.
Yeah, yeah. That's a pretty good overall summation, I'd say. In terms of individual personnel, who caught your eye for Queensland the most? Well, let's actually touch on the debutant. There's not a lot to talk about here in terms of debutants because they all did their job. But Reece Walsh, I thought was serviceable,
Mhm.
fine in defence, got involved with a bit of niggle, but it wasn't his style of game either. And
Didn't get caught out of position at all
no,
under any kicks. He was always in and around the half bombs that kept going up all night, which has been a criticism we had of Cleary a few years ago. I don't think he kicked one higher than the goalpost.
no.
When you know he can kick a lot higher than that. They were it was a definite plan, obviously, to be landing on the heads of the halves and have Tommy trying to jump over the top of them. But they got in his way. They stopped him so many different times, and he just couldn't get there for the contest the majority of the time. And that left Reece Walsh and his counterparts to sit underneath it.
I just realised the irony of that plan as well is that that's how Queensland won the game by putting one over the top of one of those bombs over the top of ours. But anyway,
uh,
yeah. So he was great. I thought who were the other
Chimed
guys you
in a
need to talk
couple of
about?
times very nicely on that backs, that sweet play that fullbacks love these days, and just caught New South Wales on the back foot, which led to quite a few sort of half breaks and meters and momentum changes for Queensland. I thought Cherry Evans' kicking game was fantastic again. That 40-20 was very pivotal point in the game where it was just sort of New South Wales seemed to be just getting the upper hand in the field position battle, and then sure enough, the 40-20 comes on tackle 3 or whatever it was, and Queensland are back down the other end. And I don't think it was too much longer into the game where they put some points on after that as well. That was a massive turning point.
Well, here's the thing with the Queensland halves, as they've done for a long time now, ice their moments for
Mm-hmm.
all the chances both the New South Wales halves had. DCE, like as you said, right when it was really starting to show, he iced a 40-20, changed momentum, got Queensland back on top. And Munster touched the ball, 5 times and had, 3 try assists and a try. So, um, like, it's about, when those sort of players are quiet for a bit, they've got something coming. And that's why they were the difference in the game ultimately. You can't say for 80 minutes, but
It's
in
been
terms of
a
result.
similar story for the last couple of years, especially in the kicking game in the Origin. Cleary doesn't seem to want to take a chance.
No.
He goes into a game where he's set with his 3 different kicks. He's going to do his grubber, his bomb, and just his normal long kick to a corner. Cherry Evans again, I think 3 or 4 times in this game kicked well before the last
Yeah.
tackle. There was one he kicked on the second tackle, I'm pretty sure, another one on the third or the fourth, and it really swung the momentum around. Obviously, you've got the big guys trying to get back on side, which makes a massive difference in even being able to set up for the next set of 6. Because you've had 2 wingers hit it up, and now you're searching for somebody who's still not back on side because they've been coming back 50 metres from a kick. Um, haven't seen that out of Cleary in Origin.
No.
Seen him do it once or twice in club games, but it just seems to me he's very formulaic in the way he goes about these Origin games, and he doesn't seem to go far outside of the box.
Well,
These other 2 halves are quite happy to have a crack at doing something different.
here's the here's the thing with the New South Wales Halves because we've already spoken about the Queensland ones, is that exactly like you said, he is a formulaic player by and large. He's a player in systems. He's got the best out of his game and had success doing that at a club level. And the Cleary defenders, we've had a few already, and I've seen Rugby League, in my opinion, already put up the list of credentials that he's already achieved because, you know,
He's
apparently
done
that's
brilliant
the only
things in the
defence
game.
they have these days. And of course, he's done good stuff to date, but if you're comparing apples to apples, the reason a technician like Cooper Cronk was so great was because he had Inglis Smith, Slater, and whoever else was a DC at 6 or whoever else before that around him, and was able to get the best out of those players in that combination. It doesn't feel like and for all the spruik of a Panthers combination, it doesn't feel like he has any combination with any of that spine at times. Uh, in that, if he's going to be the technician, he'll kick us into position. Who else is then bringing more to the table? So if the combination doesn't work and you're sticking with Cleary, do you then need to go and find? I don't know if we have one. Like the closest you've probably got in terms of someone who can create stuff like that uh, is Cody Walker. I'd suggest, unless you're going to give Nico a play, or do you say right? It's obviously not working. If Luai's fine and the others are fine, do we go and does Nico play again better? Is Mitchell Moses someone that can just kick a kilometre in a game and perhaps find something a better option? Is Adam Reynolds doing the same? Like he's only feels like that sort of level. So is the system? My point is he is he at odds with the system they're in? Ironically, given that it's a Panthers spine, or are we just? Is the game plan the issue? Is there further problems with that?
I think they just got in each other's way a hell of a lot, to be honest. In this game, there was no real set. They didn't have any depth in attack. They're
Yeah,
playing extremely flat, which doesn't give you any time to put on footwork or get size up your opposition to try and sort out an angle on which to beat them. Whereas on the other side of the field, Queensland were playing probably twice as deep as what New South Wales were in attack,
yeah,
which obviously gives you a bit of time to build up a bit of pace before you hit the line, and you can change your angles and all sorts of different things to make the defence start guessing what's going to happen. Um, they just seemed to play really flat for mine. Isaiah Yeo worked his ass off, but in attack, he was a detriment, I thought, in this game. He seemed to just get in the way of the ball getting out wide, and a lot of, as I mentioned before, angle changes and turning players back on the inside. I was screaming out for the last half an hour of this game, just get the fucking thing out wide. Like, get 1-2 passes out to Tommy and give him a bit of time and space to try and size up his opposition number. Get Fox, get a little grubber in behind and try and get Fox to beat his man with pace and get it. All he has to do is fall over and put a hand on the ball. Yeah, for mine, I think Yo probably got in the way a little bit, and I probably would have preferred to see Murray in there for large parts of this game, where he was just going to put his head down and run straight into the line, and then you can work off the back of that rather than
Murray's just
looking for.
Murray's burrowing up, popping, getting a 3-second play the ball, as opposed to
He
Yo's
does have
going
a
to.
short pass if you've got someone on his shoulder, and he does have an offload as well. But he's not going around trying to be that link man. He's going to be a forward more so than being.
Yeah, that's right.
That
And Yo's
player.
always going to try and either stand and offload or use it for work at the line, which is going to result in that slower play the ball.
Did not see a cutout pass from New South Wales all night that I can remember. And that really got my blood boiling towards the back end of this game. As I said, so many opportunities. People are out saying, like, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to say Luai had a bad game, but he was nowhere near as good as some people that you're hearing on the radios and on the TV.
Well, what do you get? It was officially 2 try assists. One, he'd already run through the line and, basically passed the ball, like the damage had been done.
It was done before he even got the ball.
Exactly. Yeah. Still had to execute, but did. And the other one, sort of similar.
Martin, if Martin doesn't run that line, it doesn't matter who was standing on the inside. All you had to do was hit him somewhere near the chest and you'll score. So they weren't going to touch him. That was his line run, and I think Crichton flattered him. Flattered Luai in this game. Don't get me wrong, he probably still deserves a shot in the second game. But yeah, I think Crichton really made him look a lot better than what he was, especially in the attacking side of the game. He had one of his better defensive games that I think I've seen Luai have for a while.
Still got stripped a couple of times, but you know what you're going to get with him. So I think he defended as well as he could, especially if you
tried his ass off.
Especially if you're not going to have a full-time bodyguard, and they were rotating their forwards perhaps too much, which didn't. I'm not
really sure what Hudson Young. I know Hudson Young got a penalty against him for the strip, but for mine, he was one of the more productive guys in the early goings of this game, and I thought he probably deserved another crack out there. I would have liked to seen both Martin and Young out there at the same time, both down that left edge. I think that would have created a lot of problems.
Well, and the other thing, I think the only time Borlo, Yo, and Haas were actually on the field at the same time was in the last 8 minutes, which is a bit bizarre. Their rotation, I don't know if there was a plan or whether it was just made up as they went along. Well, look, the two other elephants in the room, I guess, is Freddy Fittler and Tedesco. You've sort of covered that. Is there anything you want to talk about with Teddy? Is his time coming? I mean, he's 32. Is it just a general form thing? They're having a bad year, and maybe his form is more. Maybe the issues at the Roosters are just a reflection of his own form as well. So in some ways, not that he's been bad at all for the Roosters, but yeah.
How many runs did he have? Because
he ran 217 meters, but we saw it last year as well, where he just was in the way, more than anything.
But how many? I reckon there was probably 2 of those runs out of the 20 odd runs that he had where he ran directly at the player standing in front of him.
Yeah.
The majority of the time he was running sideways, inching forwards, but
and there was 2 sets where he just decided he was going to be first receiver for no apparent reason as well. Just Like,
taking space off his outside guys. His passing game, is not good enough to be involved that much in the play, to be
yeah,
honest. Unless you're putting on shapes like the Sharks do with Will Kennedy or Brisbane do with Reece Walsh, there's no real reason for your fullback to be involved as often as Tedesco was in this game, unless you obviously you're popping up and you're hitting holes and you're getting balls off second phase play and you're actually causing damage. But yeah, I reckon at least half of those meters were sideways. I don't know how he got that many meters next to his name because most of them were forwards.
is yeah, and the next thing is we've already mentioned we didn't quite understand rotation. Didn't
There
understand.
was a really nice run off Tedesco with about 10 minutes to go, where he actually put his head down, ran straight in behind the markers, and made about 15 meters and got a quick play the ball. That was about the only time I actually saw him pick out someone to run at and just run it straight at him, which used to be his thing. What he was best known for was running
Straight
strong,
through.
hard
Yeah,
lines on the inside of people getting second phase ball and just blowing people apart,
yeah.
or chiming in the centres and just running straight at or straight past someone out there. But yeah, he's
Look,
getting the ball too early and too much time, and he's too much time to think about it.
the Freddy thing is interesting because it now feels like it's a few years in a row where he's everything New South Wales does is reactive. Last year was all about
Yeah,
we've got to have Tupou in the team in case coach jumps higher than someone. Oh, we've got to do it this way. And this year was all about we got a little bit manhandled, so we better go find physical players. And picking TPJ went out in 8 minutes. I think it was an 8 minute stint, the first one, and then felt like he wasn't going to
second
come back
stint.
on.
I mean, second stint was 8 minutes.
Oh, right. Yeah. And
But
they've
even that seemed to backfire. The bigger physical blokes like your Paulos, Haas, and TPJ were getting held up in the tackle.
yeah,
They weren't trying to smack them. They weren't trying to put them on their backs. They were holding them up. They were dancing with them, rolling around in circles with 2 and 3 players, and getting your 4.5, 5 second play the balls
yeah.
instead of the 2.5, 3 second play the balls that you want. New South Wales were nowhere near as direct enough at any time in this game. Happy tried his ass off, but geez, he flew out of the line and missed a fucking heap of
Mm.
tackles. Like, I know he put a couple of really nice shots on and did some really good cover defense, taking some guys' legs out and stuff like that. But it's a lot of, I noticed, just direct one-on-one misses charging out of the line and leaving holes in behind him.
I didn't think his service was the greatest to the first half. It did get better as we went on, but and some of the times he was that far from the ruck. It was almost like it was a game plan to not have him directly involved. It was weird in the first half,
But
but
yeah, New South Wales killed themselves with the amount of time with the ball held in hands. Like, they just spent way too much time sort of running and jogging up and down on the one spot, just hanging on the football rather than letting the football go or kicking in behind the line and trying to put the pressure on that way by turning the opposition around. It just seemed very, very confusing. I don't know why.
do you think? Well, look, Freddie's probably if they lose this game, he's gone anyway. But I can see game two. Well, a couple of questions here, and I'll answer them in advance from my end. But I can see game two, what they'll do. New South Wales don't chase well. I can see there being overreactions. They'll flick. What they'll do is they'll flick TPJ. They'll probably flick Hudson Young. Uh, I and I think they'll go straight back to the blokes he trusts. Angus Crichton will be called back in. Jake Turbo will be called back in if he's fit, and they'll just go with tried and true, which admittedly they didn't have a chance to do with Jake with injury. I think he's got about another 3 weeks, so he might be touch and go.
I
And they'll
heard Jake was the whole series.
there maybe he is, but
Eight.
if he's not fit, it'll be interesting to see what they do then. And probably look, they might even go and pluck a Kolomatangi and Olakauatu now next in line, I'd suggest. So and they'll pray that Latrell's fit is the other thing. But that said, I don't think Stephen Crichton was particularly bad. He had a couple of defensive lapses.
He was close to New South
But
Wales best.
outside of Liam Martin, he was the best.
Mm-hmm.
Simply for me, I would be looking to look. It's pretty simple. Who do Queensland least like? Would Queensland least like to come up against in the first 15 minutes? I'll suggest that's Haas, Paulo, Martin, Murray, and Yo. Why wouldn't you just start that?
Yep.
Why try and have ducks and drakes. Just start that and then see what we got. If you're going to pick a Kolomatangi or an Olakawatu, who's I have concerns about in defence, particularly the second one. They're there to be a bench player with some footwork and get involved. Maybe a Madison that does that role regularly.
Madison with an offload.
Yeah, that can cover both. So the other one I don't understand, which we've touched on a little bit, is having Tommy in the team just to be a battering ram. Again, why not spread early, isolate him, try and have him do what he does best. If he's not capable of doing it, then just play Campbell Graham,
Yeah, absolutely.
And someone who's been there, done that, and go from there. Any thoughts on any of that?
Just on first thoughts, from what I saw coming from the Queensland side, if it was up to me, I would be looking to go with the like my team, completely my choice would be Campbell Graham in the centres with Brighton on the other side with Toto. Leave Fox there. I'd be putting Tommy back to fullback.
Yeah.
It'd probably be. I think it is time for Tedesco to go. Teddy would have been a much better option back at fullback in this game than. Tommy would have been a much better option than Teddy in this game. And then you are looking at the like Murray to start, Cody Walker as your option as a 6 outside of Cleary, and then probably Akula Matangi as well, because you know how much they love their combinations, and Souths at the moment are leading the comp, so I dare say you'll be probably leaning towards the Souths combination, and you might even see Appy go out the hook as well.
Well, which you've got to consider as a complete overreaction if they do that. Given Nico wouldn't have come on.
Sorry, no, that's not what. Yeah, that's not what I would do. That's what I think. I think he's going to lean very heavily towards the Souths combination now.
Yeah.
Because Cody Walker's
I reckon they'll freak out.
5 or 6 more try assists than anybody else in the game at this present time. Campbell Graham's leading try scorer, or close enough to get the trail back in the team fit, and it just all sort of leans towards that Souths. But I'd be sticking very close to what I had, to be honest. As I said, Luai probably doesn't deserve not to have another game, but going into game 2, you either got to give Nico a chance or get him out of the team.
Yes, that's where I was headed.
He could probably even be the 18th man, but he can't be on your bench as the 17th man. That needs to be someone like Campbell Graham or Matt Burton
or 2 hookers.
Or another forward. Or just a forward.
Yeah.
Or it's a second hooker.
Yeah. I could see them. No, I couldn't see them. I'm going to suggest this. Sorry, I just had the random thought.
I do like your option with just get your best forwards out there straight away. Have Murray starting with Yo and Haas and Paulo, and just take it to them from the start.
Well, yeah, like I said, who would they least want to play? Another one I thought of.
And Liam Martin was fucking amazing.
He was.
Considering the bloke's played 3 or 4 games of footy this year, he was on an absolute.
Well, how he doesn't start? He should just be starting every game. And leave him out.
You saw the impact he had as soon as he came on. You get that going from the first minute of the game.
Yeah. And the other thought I had, and you sort of touched on it, right? There's clearly no. Nico was there as a courtesy more than anything. It's just to probably shut everyone else up and go, oh, well, he deserves to be there, so let's pick him. So drop him back to 18th man. What about the idea of, or the thought, they've apparently guaranteed Tedesco his spot for the series, right. And I assume they're going to guarantee Cleary his spot as well, which, fine, that's fine. Move Teddy to 6 and Latrell to 1.
I don't think Teddy's a 6.
But he plays as 1. Or Tommy to 1, for example. Or Latrell to 6.
I think if you're going to put any one of those 3 into 6, I think Latrell would be the 6.
Given, I don't think any of those personnel will be the ones they'll change. It'll be others that they'll.
No, those 3 will still be staying in the side.
And then if you want to play Luai at 14, that's fine. He does the same thing as Nico anyway, or what Nico didn't do.
It was an absolute waste to have Nico there. He comes on and plays, gets put out in the centres, obviously, because Tommy gets a head knock, and he just clearly wasn't up to defending out there. They went straight to him, went straight around him. But the big part on that was the guys inside him didn't do their job either. there was three guys on the inside of him, and none of them moved sideways.
Yeah.
Where there was no communication, there should have been the likes of you got Murray and Cleary on his inside. They've had that much experience in football, let alone Origin Arena. They should have been screaming and pointing and telling people where they needed to be. And they all ran up, stood shoulder to shoulder, and fucking didn't make a tackle.
Yeah.
Munster runs around and puts Hammer away. And the gap was massive. There should have been someone screw. Where was Tedesco? Australian New South Wales captain. Where's he? Not there screaming at blokes, telling them they need to get out to the wing.
I hate to say it,
I
but
was doing it
I
at
hate
the
to say it
pub.
that the theme of the night was probably where was Tedesco.
Yeah,
On the first grubber, on that play,
first scrubber.
on the other, he got
I'm pretty
outleapt
sure
by a
he was
prop.
the last man to make contact in two other tackles as well. But
If that bomb goes up at the
scored.
other end, 8 Queenslanders swarm on whoever's underneath it,
Absolutely.
and no one was within,
Lindsay
apart from Teddy,
Collins
no one was
just
in
stretches out
fielding
over
of
the
them.
top of Teddy.
Uh,
Teddy and Luai both had a shot on Cobbo before he scored, and both really should have got him. They barely budged the bloke.
oh yeah.
He tripped over more than anything else, and then picked his feet up and slid over the line. But
And you got to give kudos to Queensland because they're the ones under the pub as well. Just a few blokes you didn't mention. Harry Grant had to defend a lot more than they thought he was going to have to, and Ben Hunt the same out with Cotter, and they smothered the edge and
they
did what
had
they had to
big
do.
moments of they went 5-10 minute periods basically not having the ball. They just had to tackle their ass off, stay somewhere within the game. They were super physical. They were much more physical than us in the outside backs.
Oh yeah.
Which I thought would definitely be the other way around, but it wasn't. I don't think Hammer missed a tackle. He made about 15 or 16 tackles, looked really good, ball in hand. Cobbo the same. Dow missed one or two, but he did a really good job shutting down that edge as well, because they continually did go there and ask questions of him, considering how he's had a couple of really rusty games in the last few weeks come leading into Origin. He was fantastic again, Origin Arena. Yeah, New South Wales got frustrated. They weren't trying enough to try and do anything different to disturb the defence of Queensland, and they just ate them up.
Yeah. Is this final word because we'll move on. Is this just going to be the core New South Wales we're lumped with until someone's got, I don't know who you put in charge next year, and who's going to have the guts to come in and go, you know what, we're going to have to drop 6 of these blokes, or try a new spine.
Yeah, it's a good question because these guys are performing in normal footy. It just they need to be basically told, I don't care if you fuck up 3 and 4 times. I need you to be trying things. I need you to be putting in your grubbers, your chip kicks. I need you to really make this defence think about what's happening. And
I wonder if
throw a few big cutout passes.
I wonder if New South
expecting.
Wales score first, it's a whole different setup. Like they have that confidence, whether they freeze a little bit, and I don't know.
Well, they're going to have to go out and really sting this ball around when they go up to Queensland, because they're going to need at least 20 points to win this second game. So
yeah.
If they go out and try to play a structured, grind them into the ground with 50,000 supporters and a Queensland team that'll be bouncing off the walls up there, they'll get flogged.
Yeah, I think we'll see the South connection. I think Cook comes back. I think they'll bring, well, obviously, hopefully Latrell and probably Kulamatanga are all in that team the next time out, for better or worse, because they might not win a game between now and the next Origin as well. They've lost the last couple. But anyway, any final words, Barn, or should we get stuck into what's next?
Oh, you have to give kudos to Queensland. They soaked up so much pressure. A lot of other teams would have just fallen apart. New South Wales shot themselves in the foot plenty of times, but they did put enough pressure on. Queensland has hung tough and did everything they needed to do. So I've got to give special mention to the likes of Cotter, who ended up playing 80 minutes and doing a shit ton of work. I thought Walsh was probably one of their better players when he got involved. Cobbo rates really highly in this game. I thought he was tremendous. And their halves just did their job and then had a moment. Both had a flash or two of brilliance added on top of it as well. So well done, Queensland.
Yeah. And Pat Carrigan, we didn't mention in all that, led the run meters by 30 meters or so, and made 30+
Yeah,
tackles. So, uh, you know, it they
tremendous
they
again.
have a better, they do Origin better. Simple as that, and have done for a long time.